If you think pit bulls are all tough and no love, wait till you hear Bandit's journey. Bandit started life as an adorable puppy. He was the smallest but craziest pup in the litter. All of his litter mates were adopted before him. The breeders fed him, gave him water and a few puppy shots, but paid little attention to him except when somebody was looking to adopt him. Bandit whimpered frequently, longing for love and attention, but the breeders ignored him. This annoyed the breeder who, rather than giving Bandit the attention he longed for, shouted at him to shut up. The poor puppy was lonely and scared. Bandit's mom was separated from him when she became pregnant with a new litter. When Mama Dog heard Bandit crying, she whimpered and barked because she wanted to be near him too. The breeders had received $400 for all of Bandit's littermates. However, now they needed to make room for the new puppies, so they lowered their price to $200. Even at the reduced price, no one adopted Bandit. He became sad, and even lonelier. Eventually, one of the breeders gave Bandit to his drug dealer in exchange for an undisclosed amount of meth. Bandit was happy to leave the breeder's abode, but he didn't know what his future held. Bandit's new owners were kind to him when they weren't high, but that still left Bandit lonely more often than not. Then one day, there was a loud knock at the door. There were strange voices shouting words Bandit didn't understand. Bandit was scared and hid under a bed, while police officers arrested his new owners and collected little baggies filled with stuff that didn't smell like treats. As the police officers were leaving, a female officer named Angela noticed Bandit hiding under the bed. He was whimpering, then growling. The officer loved dogs but knew her roommate would kill her, figuratively, if she brought home another dog. Angela's best friend ran a small animal rescue. Fortunately, Mercedes, Angela's BFF, had just adopted out 2 dogs and had room for Bandit. Gina and Martha were sisters who worked together as waitresses at an upscale restaurant in the French Quarter. They made good money until the government forced the closure of many restaurants due to the coronavirus. They were eligible for unemployment and there was a moratorium on rent. But the girls knew the landlord wasn't wealthy. She still had to pay the mortgage on the house. After the 2 weeks to flatten the curve came and went, the girls spoke to the landlord. Miss Stacy said eventually the home would be foreclosed on because she couldn't afford it without the rent money. Martha asked, "If we move out, how will you rent it?" Miss Stacy said she would sell it to someone who could use it, and then use the money for another investment. The girls knew they couldn't afford the apartment without their income, and didn't want to take advantage of Miss Stacy. After talking to their parents, they decided to move back to their family home. Shortly after returning home, they learned that their mom was diagnosed with severe depression. She said she felt useless because nobody needed her anymore. Everyone assured her that she was needed, but the girls thought that a dog would help to cheer their mom up, so they went to a local animal shelter who their aunt volunteered at. They found a pit bull mix named Bandit. Bandit made himself at home very quickly, and Mom's mood took a quick turn for the better. Bandit was friendly and loving, but not trained. Initially, Bandit pulled on the leash with a lot of excitement. During his first few walks, he pulled so hard Mom couldn't control him. She was annoyed when one of the neighbors asked, "Who's walking who?" But instead of feeling sorry for herself and focusing on things that sucked, Mom started working out to build strength, and she turned to Facebook and YouTube for additional advice. Mom subscribed to American Standard Dog Training and Fur Wheels for advice and entertainment. She invested in a prong collar and treat bag. The combination worked well. Bandit quickly learned to walk on a loose leash. Mom and Bandit started to bond over purposeful play. She truly enjoyed learning with and training Bandit. Bandit loved the whole family, but Mom was his favorite human. When Mom had to leave Bandit for a few minutes to run errands, he would run to the window and watch her car pull out of the driveway, then wait for her to return. When she returned, Bandit's whole body wiggled with excitement. Then, one evening in March, everyone except Mom came down with a bad cold. While Mom was at the Costco, she picked up the normal groceries and some cold medicine for everyone. After loading the groceries into the car, Mom started her car and the gas light came on. There had been several news reports about carjackings and muggings at the Costco, but gas was cheaper there and she figured she would pray and remain vigilant. She felt blessed when the tank was filled without incident. In New Orleans, that's a blessing. But the good luck didn't last long. While driving westbound on I-10, a drunk driver, driving at almost 100 miles an hour, smashed into her car, causing serious injuries. After 2 hours, the girls felt like something was wrong because Mom never took this long to make groceries. They called their mom's cell phone, but there was no answer. They waited a few minutes and called again and again. Eventually someone answered, but it wasn't their mom. The voice was a male whose voice Martha didn't recognize. She hung up the phone and checked to see if she hit the wrong button, then called again. This time, the same voice answered. Martha said, "I think something is wrong with my phone. I know this is my mom's phone number, but you're not her." The male responded, "My name is Sergeant Hansen. There's been an accident and your mom is on her way to the hospital." Tears immediately started falling. Bandit and Gina immediately noticed, then came over to comfort her. When Martha told her sister what the sergeant had told her, the girls woke their dad up. All three of the humans headed to the hospital in such a rush, they didn't feed Bandit or put him in his kennel before they left. Bandit knew something was wrong, but had no idea how much this would change his life. Once they arrived to the hospital, a staff member brought them to a private room. They all knew this was not a good sign. Within a few minutes, a doctor and the sergeant walked in and, as delicately as possible, delivered the bad news. Martha asked about the other driver, the one who caused the accident. She was advised that he suffered minor injuries and was in the Jefferson Parish Jail on DWI and vehicular manslaughter charges. Those words stung the family extremely hard. The girls had learned about the definition of manslaughter in criminal justice classes and on the news. Until now, manslaughter was just a word. It was a legal definition. They knew it was a lesser criminal charge than murder, but this time the man who was slaughtered was their mother. "Manslaughter," Gina repeated. "Mom's dead. She was alive 2 hours ago." Gina could no longer get any words out. Tears silently fell down her cheeks. Everyone returned home except for Mom, of course. The drive home was silent and somber. They all noticed 2 packages on the front porch. There was a Chewy box with Bandit's food, and another box from Amazon. The Amazon box contained a new ball-throwing toy Mom ordered for Bandit a few days earlier. Everyone was too distraught to bring the packages in. Bandit, as usual, greeted the family with his wiggle butt. He jumped on Martha, who was the only one other than Mom who let him do that. Bandit quickly sensed everyone's sadness and knew something was wrong. He tried to cheer them up but kept looking for Mom. The girls and their dad walked to the kitchen table, put their stuff down, then started to make plans to call family and plan the funeral. Bandit sat at the front door waiting for Mom to walk through and play hide and seek or fetch with him like she usually did. Martha eventually sat down next to Bandit and told him that Mom was dead. Bandit kissed her face, then laid on the floor with his head down and whimpered. The family turned on the local news and the story about the accident was on the news. They learned that the drunk driver hit 6 other cars and killed 2 other people, including a police officer. The driver had been arrested for DWI in 3 other states but never made it to any of his criminal hearings. Victor Sanchez Ortega was detained on an immigration detainer because he had been previously removed 7 times. This infuriated everyone. Dad's sister was a deportation officer and Mom's brother-in-law was a border patrol agent. Aunt Heather and Uncle Joe used to bore us with conversations about how porous the border was. Now everything came crashing down on Dad. He was squeezing a stress ball, his face turned red and he threw the stress ball against the TV. Bandit immediately chased the ball and brought it back to Dad, who gently took it from him, then started sobbing. "I've been married to your mom for 35 years. She has never hurt anyone. She goes out of her way to help anyone who needs it. She learned to train Bandit so good." At that, Bandit sat near Dad and wagged his tail. Dad continued, "Now I know why Heather and Joe were so angry about how this administration has opened the borders. Your mom, my wife, should be here, walking Bandit." Bandit heard "walk Bandit," then ran to get his leash. The family looked at him and had to laugh. They put the leash on him and took him for a walk around the neighborhood. The family was sad and angry. Gina finally said, "Dad, I've been thinking that I have a bachelor degree in Spanish and maybe I should use it for something other than waitressing. Not that there's anything wrong with waitressing, I mean I love it, but I'm going to need to get my own health insurance next year." A few days ago I went on USA Jobs and started applying for a border patrol job. "I hope you're not mad." Martha looked at her, then said, "Seriously, sis, I've been applying for jobs with ICE." Dad said, "I'm proud of both of you, but right now we need to plan a funeral."